Hello, hello, and welcome to this YouTube video about taking notes using the idea of main idea and supporting details. So the main idea is like the big idea, and the supporting details are like these small details that support the main idea. So if my main idea or my big idea was Elijah is creative, and my supporting details would all have to do with this big idea of Elijah being creative. So one of my supporting details might be he tells great stories. So you have to be creative to tell great stories. Another supporting detail might be he builds cool things out of using different materials. You have to be creative to build cool things out of different materials. And my last detail might be he makes up awesome songs, because you have to be creative to make up awesome songs. So there's my big idea, Elijah's creative, and my supporting details, stories, building, and songs. All right, so we're going to use that idea and take some notes from this book. So now would be a good time to pause the video and get paper and like pencil or marker or pen, something to write with. Okay, great. So I'll read a little section of this book, and then Rosemary is going to take notes as I'm reading with main idea and supporting details, and then she'll share the notes that she took, and you guys can see if it's similar to the notes that you took. All right. So first of all, I know this is backwards, so it's hard, you can't read it, but it's a really short history of nearly everything by Bill Bryson. And Bill Bryson is this really funny author who wrote this book directed toward adults about the history of like the universe, the history of forever. And then he did a version for kids, but it's really for older kids. So it's a pretty tricky reading level, but we'll see how you guys do with it. Okay. So the section I picked out is the only section about dinosaurs, because that's where we had just left off in our learning about the history of the universe. Okay, so here we go. Rosemary, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Elijah, you ready to listen?
No.
Oh, well, you can go play somewhere else then if you would like. It's up to you. All right. So the big heading is, where did we come from? The first land animals from which we came are something of a mystery. Many animals are tetrapods, which means they have 4 limbs. Dinosaurs, whales, birds, humans, even fish are all tetrapods, which clearly suggests they come from a single common ancestor. However, no fossils have been found that conclusively link fish with land creatures, at this point anyway. Life on land. That's this other heading, life on land. There were 4 main branches of early reptilian life. One was wiped out early on, another gave rise to the turtles, and a third evolved into dinosaurs. The last sometimes looked like dinosaurs, but were actually reptiles, and it was a later branch of these that developed into mammals, and eventually us, humans. And the next section, waiting our turn. That's their subheading. It wasn't all plain sailing, however. Unfortunately, for this last group, which included us, their cousins the dinosaurs proved too much to cope with. Unable to compete head-to-head with them, our ancestors, by and large, vanished from the record. However, a very few evolved into small, furry, burrowing beings that bided their time for a very long while as little mammals. The biggest of them grew no larger than a house cat, and most of these mammals were no bigger than mice. One, a mouse-like animal, Hadrocodium, had a tiny body, weighing just 2 grams, the same weight as a paperclip. It had a brain that, compared to other mammals, was really big for its size. Eventually, their small size would prove their salvation, but they would have to wait nearly 150 million years for the age of the dinosaurs to come to an abrupt end. That's the end of that section. Now, this next one is great survivors. We don't really know a great deal about the dinosaurs, as fewer than 1,000 species have been identified. They ruled the earth for roughly 3 times as long as mammals and remained numerous until one single event wiped them out. And then last section, going, gone. No one knows how many species of organisms have existed since life began. 30 billion is a commonly used figure, but the number has been put as high as 400 billion. Whatever the actual total, 99.99% of all species that have ever lived are no longer with us. And then the caption for this picture says, each of these huge transformations was dependent upon that improbable driving force of progress, extinction. There's a lot of big words in there. And then this photo caption says, dinosaur trackway site with exposed fossil tracks of lower Jurassic age dinosaurs. So for those of you who were here during our dinosaur running lesson, we saw pictures of dinosaur tracks on Mystery Science too. All right, that was a lot of information. It's really beyond elementary level, but I'm curious if you guys were able to take notes about main idea and supporting details. And Rosemary, let's see what you took and what you have to share with us.
So I did a little sneaky thing. I used all the little subheadings as my subheadings for my main ideas. So my big main idea is where did we come from? And then I have all the little subheadings, and then under them, these are my little like bullet points. They're little squiggly lines. Wow, very exciting. And then I just go down, and then there's an idea, a main idea, and then there's all my details with the squiggly lines, main idea, details, main idea, details. And
so what did you come up with? I'm so curious if it's similar to what other kids came up with.
Okay. First, I wrote down that we all have a lot in common being tetrapods, which are animals with 4 limbs, which points to the idea that perhaps we have a single common ancestor. Gasp. And then the next section is life on land. A lot was wiped out. There was a section of turtles. There was a section of dinos. And then we were eventually evolved from mammals. There was a section called waiting our turn. Mammals did not compete with dinos. In fact, some became small and furry, and those were the ones that survived. Very small. Largest was no larger than a house cat. Most were mouse-like and smaller. Another section, we don't know a lot about dinos because there aren't a lot of specimens left, but one event wiped them out. Gasp, that is a cliffhanger. We'll have to learn more about that later. And then the last section is going, gone, saying that there are many different estimates, 30 billion to possibly 400 billion species in the nature of all time, and that 99.9% of all species ever are now extinct. And then in the quote from under the picture, there was something interesting, which was extinction was like helping drive progress, which I thought was funny. Yeah, so those are the notes I took.
Thanks, Rosemary.
I learned.
And so, Rosemary's notes were like really, really concise, and that's what you try to do as you're doing note taking, so that it's really easy to look back.
They're also the notes of a high school senior, so I'd be really surprised if you guys had as much written as Rosemary, but I'm so curious if you guys took notes and what you did. And if you took notes, if you guys want to take a picture and send it, we'd be so curious to see them. All right, thanks, and until next time, goodbye.
Bye. Bye. Woo.